You are, biologically speaking, a walking garbage. That's not an insult, but a fact. You're slow, bony, and have no fat reserves worth eating, no claws, no armor. If you fell into open water right now, next to something with the size and speed to end you in under a second, you would register as one thing, not food. And somewhere in your chest right now, just hearing that, something loosened. A tiny release. You didn't ask for it. You didn't earn it. It just happened. The second you imagine the biggest predator on the planet deciding you weren't worth its time, that feeling has a name, and understanding it tells you something uncomfortable about how you see yourself every single day, whether there's a predator in the room or not. Let's start with the moment itself. You're in the water. Something enormous is moving toward you. Every animal instinct you have left over from your ancestors is screaming the same message. Run, hide, you can't do either. And then it just glides past. Doesn't even slow down. What happens in your brain in that half second is not relief that you survived a threat. It's the collapse of an expectation. You had already accepted somewhere in your nervous system that you were prey. And prey that gets ignored feels something closer to being chosen than being spared. Your brain doesn't experience "it didn't want to eat me" the way it experiences "I escaped." One is neutral. The other floods you with a version of relief usually reserved for actual danger you fought your way out of. You didn't fight anything. You just weren't interesting enough to bother with. And somehow, that feels like winning. You're not being spared because you're formidable. You're being ignored because you're a bad meal. Think about what a predator like this actually needs to survive in freezing water. Dense fat, high-calorie tissue, something worth the energy spent catching it. Now think about what you are. Mostly water, mostly bone, wrapped, more often than not, in synthetic fabric that doesn't taste like anything alive. To something built entirely around efficient hunting, you are the human equivalent of a bag of packing peanuts. Technically edible, not worth opening. This is where your ego steps in and does something almost embarrassing. Instead of processing "I was nutritionally uninteresting," your brain quietly reframes the whole event into "I was too dangerous to bother with." Same outcome. Two completely different stories. One is true. The other is the one you'll actually tell people later. Psychologists have a term for this kind of self-flattering rewrite. It's called cocky son of a. It's called self-serving bias, and it's not a flaw exclusive to survival stories. It's the same mechanism that turns "I got lucky" into "I made the right call," or turns "they were busy" into "they didn't want to deal with me." Your brain is constantly editing outcomes to protect one thing above all else, not your body, your sense of status in the story. For most of human history, this instinct wasn't vanity, it was survival software, doing exactly its job. If you're a small, physically unimpressive primate standing at the edge of a landscape full of animals that could kill you without slowing down, believing you're more dangerous than you actually are, is sometimes the only thing keeping you from freezing in place. Confidence, even manufactured confidence, changes posture, changes decision speed. A slightly delusional sense of your own power was, for a very long stretch of evolutionary time, more useful than an accurate one. You inherited that software. It didn't get an update when the world changed. It still runs the same subroutine every time you walk away from something that could have hurt you and didn't. Interview goes fine. Confrontation gets diffused. A predator swims past without a second glance. Your brain files all of it under the same header. Handled, even when the honest filing would be irrelevant. There's a deeper layer here, and it's the one that actually explains why this specific pairing, a fragile human and an animal capable of effortlessly ending them, produces such a strange emotional cocktail. Fear and relief aren't opposites in your nervous system. They're neighbors. They run through overlapping chemical pathways. That means the bigger the fear your brain manages to generate in the seconds before an outcome, the bigger the reward it manufactures the moment that fear turns out to be unnecessary. You're not built to feel safe. You're built to feel the difference between expected danger and actual danger. And that difference is where the good feeling lives, which means the story you tell yourself about being let go by something powerful isn't really about the predator at all. It's about proving to an audience of one that the fear was worth having, that you weren't foolish for being afraid, that the danger was real, even if it never touched you. This is the same mechanism behind 100 smaller moments in your life that have nothing to do with open water. The boss who could have fired you but didn't. The stranger on the street who could have started something but walked on. Every time your brain does the same quiet math. It wasn't that the threat was smaller than I thought. It's that I handled it. And handling a threat, even one that was never actually pointed at you, is one of the oldest sources of self-worth your species has. So what do you do with this now that you can see the wiring underneath it? Not much, honestly. You're not going to override several 100,000 years of threat processing by knowing about it, but you can start noticing the pattern the next time it fires. The next time something big passes you by, whether it's a person, a situation, a moment of danger that quietly dissolves into nothing, pay attention to which story your brain reaches for first. The one where you were lucky, or the one where you were formidable. Because the truth most of the time is closer to the first one, and there's something oddly steadying about that. You don't need to be the most dangerous thing in the water to be allowed to feel relief. You're allowed to just be glad it passed you by. You are, biologically speaking, garbage, and somehow that's the most reassuring thing you'll hear all week.